Thank you for coming. We're really, really, really happy to have you here. It was quite an impressive performance, and maybe the first thing I'd like to know is a little bit how do you think that for you the context changes the performance?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it something which is like a castle which travels and you're always kind of autonomous? And
Thanks for receiving me. It's a pleasure to be here for the first time in Warsaw. A long time ago I was in Lublin with another piece, but never in Warsaw actually. And I have some Polish friends, and actually one of them came yesterday to see us. And BISONTE is a piece that is never very stable. When we premiere, I wasn't totally happy with the work. So for the first year that we were presenting, the piece was changing. Not in relation only for the context, but also to understand a bit like the material of the piece and how some ideas could get more sharp or more direct. Of course, that I was based on Portuguese context. That was where we were performing. And right after that kind of like stable place that the piece went, it came COVID. So we had to stop for 1.5 years of touring. And also during that period, the dancers changed, they got mature, they transform. Some gender identities in the cast also changed. And it was a really important things to the piece, to the strength of the piece, because these questions that people were going through related with gender, but related with also themselves getting older, also the fact that COVID went and a lot of mental transformation happened in the world. The piece went into a place that got a bit more accurate maybe, in terms of topics and in terms of the self-expression of the cast towards the outside.
Can you give me an example of like
the fact, we felt that there is a pre-COVID, actually, especially in Portugal, that is what I'm most in contact. Pre-COVID, the piece was already related with gender expression and a relation with the outside look over you, how it influences you to also protulate or certain types of behaviors. And in the COVID and after COVID, there was a very strong social movement towards the social networks, not only related with ethnic and racial, like Black Lives Matter, but also in terms of gender. Some social community groups got more present, more vocal during the COVID, and also I felt that influenced us for how people would receive the work after being exposed for these topics while they were in COVID. So I feel like the piece got a bit more accurate in the sense of what is going on in the world, what are the people talking about, for one hand. And for other hand, the fact that in this period, part of the cast, one people changed, so I had to pass the work for another dancer. The fact that you pass to another dancer, it makes you reflect a bit. How do you communicate? What were the motivations? What do you say to guide this person to feel truth and honest on stage?
By the way, I'm curious, so when there's a new person who arrives, so I imagine that in a process like for this piece, that it's a fairly collective process, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like like the performers are very generous in the way they do things, so I suppose they feel also authorship, you know, that they feel agency. So what happens? What happened? How did that work?
There is a very interesting dynamic in terms of creation, performer, creator, author, performer, and in this case, the base of the piece, the motor of the piece was done for me. Like I make the decisions, I invite the people, I decided what are we more talking about, especially because this piece also comes from a fictional or is biographic based, and then I radicalize a bit that source that is an event in my life. And so first of all, like to digest it to me, to be able to communicate with the dancers, and then create this dialogue between me and them, where I find the right way to, or we find the right way to make it make sense for them when they are performing something, like what are the scenes saying, why are you feeling this, where are you coming from, where are you going, why are we talking about this, why are we working with these shapes and figures. Like this is material that is discussed, and it's part of it, it's collective. And then for me gets clear the place of each dancer in the piece. So we start shaping it until we get the piece. And when one dancer needs to be replaced for many reasons, sometimes they don't want to keep doing it, or it's okay. And there is already a typecast for that place. So it's not anyone. It should be someone that I can feel that can correlate with the place of that person in the piece. Sometimes is visual, other times is more in terms of like dance back styles that they have, or type of performativity that puts on scene. And in this cast in particular, when I replace somebody, I try also to replace it for somebody that is queer similar, I would say. That somehow it can't be anyone. It needs to be someone that understands topics, understands the meanings, and has the same mind track for the work. So when I pass it to it, I feel that the work always transforms a bit, because for me it becomes more sharp, the meaning of the scene, or even if deeply it doesn't change much, maybe the clear image for the scene or the moment, it's there, and the person gets the information quicker, so it doesn't have to process so much anymore.
It's interesting listening to you. You have such a kind of a clear and also a precise and technical almost vision of how to work, but your background is, in terms of education, is not dance. So I wonder, how did you get such a clarity? Because it's your education, from what I know, is sports, and you studied also physical rehab. Is that?
Yeah, that's it. Physiotherapy.
Physiotherapy. There you go. And some of the elements, of course, when you're watching a show like this, you fantasize like, oh, this is because of his background, etc., which I always find a little bit suspicious when somebody goes too far in that direction. But
I see.
But still, the question remains, like, how did you get these tools? How did you get this thinking?
Hmm. There are many layers. There are many layers. I started as kid much more related with art. I studied music and I would love to sing and dance. So I was a very expressive kid straight away. Suddenly, when I got into the education, 10 years old, 11 years old, I got bullied in school, so it related with my overexpression maybe. This made me change for something that is more physical, that I could work on myself, so I entered in the sports scene because I felt that was something that could, I rationalize now, that could give me respect or towards
recognition, maybe?
Recognition, yeah, towards my intimate cycle, but also outside. No, I'm a sport guy. I practice every day. I like my body is in shape. I'm not skinny or so. I think the process is there, but because of that, from very beginning, I established a body practice, as a dancer does, as a dancer needs to do it. So I feel like my connection to the body was very related with swimming. That is a very global and sensitive work, and it's strong but it's flexible. So it becomes here a work on a practice of the body.
Yes, it's also very much a kind of a Zen practice, isn't it? Where you're working and and it's not a quick and kind of quickly dynamic thing, but it really makes you think long term.
And it's very related with design of movement, because as relation with how strong do you pull or how do you pull. I really
like what you're doing with your hand when you
because these movements are very connected to the water environment, but actually in ballet you also have these extremes very present and they are dominant towards the core. So I feel like water and swimming gave me a lot of knowledge about movement and motricity.
But that didn't give you knowledge about how to deal with a group of crazy, amazing performers.
Yeah, and then I started, at some point I started physiotherapy. That for me was really analytic and technical vision of the body. So for me, it's easy to decompose movement and to decompose articulation. What is a muscular movement? How do I transfer a weight without to compensate? How to put weight? Like this analytic and academic vision of the body was in physiotherapy, because the target of physiotherapy is the organic and healthy movement.
Yes.
So this also helped to inform me how to compose bodies, shapes, and transitions. And then I started, in my biggest motor to dance was passion and pleasure. When I stopped swimming, I got a burnout, and I had to stop. And for a year, I was like trying to find other body practice, and I find in dance a pleasure that sometimes is a bit painful because you get tired and you sweat, but it's something that I could exalt, that I could feel pain and concrete feelings, but at the same time the adrenaline goes on in the body, and there is a pleasure connected to. And I started with urban dances, doing it in a very freestyle and improvised way, and a very autodidactic journey. But I was very, very curious. I feel like to compensate a bit the lack of years that I had. And because I was in the urban dances, and in Portugal we don't have school of that, I started teaching quite early. So around 18, 19, I was already teaching. And when you teach, you start doing choreography for the end of the year or Christmas parties. So this this place of teaching, guiding kids or choreographing, make them come in, put me already in contact to choreography. That was not my focus, but I can understand that it influenced me. And when I start getting a bit more professional, I had the lucky to work with many different choreographers.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like the first 3 years I was performing, but I was learning so much about how to compose and how to guide process in studio. And I was really like a sponge during these years. And then my process was a bit slow. Like 10 years ago, I did my first piece in a very immature and friendly way, with 3 other dancers that had a very similar process than mine, related with urban dances and not academic in dance. So the studio was a place that I didn't felt challenged or judged by the others that were surrounding me. So there was a confidence going up, and my second piece was only, I kept performing to other people, and my second piece came 4 years after.
Mm-hmm.
So it
took quite a while.
It took quite a while to dive in the first work, to still working in another ones, and also to understand where I'm going. And I just started a new process when I understood that, okay, I know what I want to do now.
Mm-hmm.
And the third piece came 3 years after the second one. So there is kind of like a breathing between pieces. And I feel like...
What patience.
It was very natural because I was very busy with other things. And I was like, I don't know if I want to just be a choreographer. I think I want to keep dancing for others, because it's very rich, the process of each person guiding. And it guides in a different way and in a particular way. And as I said, like I work with choreographers that are more theatrical based, that come from theater, but I worked also with other ones that are counts all the time and abstract. And so for me, it was so rich that then I start understanding what are my similarities, but what am I missing in each work that I can put in my work.
Yes. What is your own kind of path that you see?
Yeah, like being in the studio and saying, I wouldn't do the decision that way, or I wouldn't do that cut, or but that's a very
or you see the opportunity that something is growing, and then you're like, that would be interesting if we took that and we just waited for it to grow, or.
And it happened actually, like to work in process, for example, with this theatrical person, and understand like, I will take this for me, but then in Hoffa's work, for example, to understand how we compose and how we count and how we create movement, and say, okay, I understand that in my work, if I go that way, I will be similar to them. And it was like, okay, so maybe let's put the body in another shape so it doesn't go towards them. Because also like there is this vicissitudes of falling into repertory, authorial repertory, like...
yes, that you have a certain
kind
way.
of like a family of aesthetic line of Pina or 𝗔𝗙𝗧𝗘𝗥𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗞, or, you know, like you can see that there many other dancers influenced by them, and it's beautiful to see that chain. But I was also trying to find my chain, because in Portugal we don't have these repertory schools, so each author is a bit like exploring their limits, their boundaries.
Yes, but at the same time there's quite a beautiful milieu, no? Of dance and performance in Portugal. And do you feel part of it now?
Yeah, I feel part of it, and I feel like your first question is touching again now, because you asked how the context changed, and I was like, in Portugal there is a relation with that part of the Europe that was a colonizer that traveled to Brazil, that traveled to Angola and Mozambique, and it's going on in Portugal a very decolonization process, and these elements that you can see also in this piece, you can see flavors of Brazil in it, and
Yes.
I can't escape
Around the
of
social
it.
dance, which then moves somewhere to Brazil, and then
parade, to a
rock, and then
parade.
parade,
Yeah.
and then together, and then
Yeah.
square dance, and
Yeah, a carnival, but also a way you can talk about euphoria in many different ways, no? Like in Japan, euphoria is expressed in a way,
completely.
and in Portugal in a way, and in Poland in a way. And I feel like the way I explore the topic of this piece, that is the relation between melancholia and euphoria, the way I do it, it reflects the place where I come from. And if the same topic was given to an artist in Poland, they would express in a different way. So I feel like when I come to Poland, for example, to present, I can understand there is quite a reaction that is a bit more enthusiastic maybe than in Portugal, because in Portugal they are used to
You're part of a certain
that's it.
system or
the
paradigm.
The radicalism or the history of the work maybe touches the audience in different ways. So I feel like it changes, the context can change a bit the work too. And I feel part of this movement that is happening in Portugal with some artists that it's quite raw, it's quite brave, there is some humor, it's not very clean or architecturally designed in stage.
Well, it looked extremely clean and architecturally designed.
But not in the modern way, the school of the modern, like the body occupying the space, not in that sense, not the relation of the body with the space or space and time.
Yes, yes.
There is maybe a more a set and music that communicates a bit more with social or common symbols, that then you explore them and then you create deviations. But
Yes, but it's much more focused on them than on the relation with the space.
Yeah.
Yes, agreed. I want to go back to something which you said, which had to do with how the performers, you said it a while ago, about how the performers feel or see themselves, and the relation of that to being seen. And I'm curious to know how you're working with that. In particular, I was a mentor in a project not so long ago where they had a big problem because it was a group of performers that were so extremely focused on their own experience that they almost refused the outside view. And here you come in with a perspective which is a very kind of, I would say, somehow cruel perspective. You know, when in sports you're aiming for a specific goal, in physiotherapy as well, you are manipulating in a certain way, a certain muscle. A specific movement is important and not another one. And you're entering a world where, especially in today's zeitgeist, it's not what is from the outside, it's what I feel, how I feel. And I was wondering how you deal with that, how you deal with this kind of combination of the inside with the outside gaze. Your gaze as a director, a choreographer, somebody who's looking at, and then the input that you get from the performers.
Yeah. I like to work with people that are close to me, that we are friends, maybe we met from before, like there are many hours of studio that we've been to, and that give a confidence and a friendship that comes to the studio. So I'm lucky because I feel that they trust in the proposals, and they trust because also there is a space of listening on both sides. And when we start to work in this material, I open myself for a place of vulnerability because it comes from a personal story. This creates a bond straight away. In some way or another, they had their own stories or bits of stories that could mimicate my story too, because we all fall in love, we all lost, we all question ourself in teenage. So like there are these topics, and sometimes instead of like focusing and one particular experience, I was more looking for one particular emotion coming from where it comes. So my relation were more based on the emotions and how the emotions from one second to another they change, or in one slap one second of a slap can have a lot of love and hate, or can have a lot of like these shifts of passion and desire and possession. So more than focusing in the event, let's focus in how do you felt and what you felt, and let's look for it. And so I was more based on that, maybe
but you were
less
still
rational.
But you were still super precise.
Yeah.
And you must have been extremely rigorous with the performers.
Yes, because I also tried not to put the responsibility all in the performer. Like the composition helps, the music that you put helps, the game that you play with another one, the order of the piece helps. So like if it's going in a way that it's not going well for the person, maybe there is something in the composition or in the dramaturgy that I can correct, and I don't change the dancer, I change the structure. So
it's very generous.
But it's true, because like they have to feel confident when they perform it, and I don't want them. Of course, that there is a limit.
Do you remember, Polish directors and choreographers? The performers need to feel confident in what they do. Thank you.
That's a limit. Like, if it doesn't come on the first time that you do some things, and sometimes we insist and we practice and we work on it and we work out some things and we do exercises to work out the scene, parallel exercises. And at some point we have a decision to make, or like it's coming on, we feel the progress, or we don't see it and maybe we have to change it. But yeah, it's a game between light, between sound, between order of piece, between maybe like change the person from the back to the front, or it changes because you see better, and if you see, or you see less. So if you see less, like it creates other feelings, other experience as a viewer, and other times we are very honest. Like it's like, okay, what we are working on, what you are giving to me, it's good, but I'm not receiving what you want to say. So maybe we can say it in a different way. So because this is a channel of communication. If we don't speak the same language with some kind of same codes, we won't be able to understand ourselves. And I can speak louder, or I can speak in another words, but it doesn't achieve you. So
it doesn't arrive to you. It doesn't. Yeah.
So this game is very honest, also very direct, and we say, okay, you are trying to say that, but it's not arriving me to that way. I read this and this and this. Maybe try to do, you see, like these exercises of.
But this also takes time. How much time did you have?
Yeah,
How much time did you rehearse?
Usually I like to do long process. I start usually 1.5 years before the premiere.
How can you afford it?
Because I work part-times. Like I work for 2 weeks, 1.5 years before. I give a gap of time. Then I might work 2 other weeks with other dancer.
With another dancer?
With another dancers or another group of dancers.
So you go like for residency with one dancer or one group, and then you work a little bit, and they are aware of it. It's like a laboratory.
Yeah.
And then you say, thank you very much, you were helpful.
No, but it's part of the process already.
Yeah. So they know
and usually
where they
are part of the process.
Okay. But because it's an important decision to have somebody come in who's going to be giving their material and not performing.
But they perform actually.
They perform, okay.
Yeah,
So it's just you work with some and then with some others
instead of
from the
coming
group.
all at the same time, for me it's easy
Yes.
also to investigate a bit some materials in person with one dancer or two, and then I receive them because I feel also very it's a lot to receive a full company in the first day to start a project, and so maybe I start 2 days in the studio with the musicians before, and then I go with a residency with some dancers. 1 month after with another one. Then I work with myself, like I saw some things, I make decisions, and I go for a third residency. I went into a third residency like half a year after. And then like slow by slow, I start having material that is a bit related with the work, but they don't relate with each other yet. And at some point, I have kind of like 2 months, 3 months before the premiere with everybody, and we work a bit more full on. But even those 3 months, I like to have gaps of weeks of break, so we can rest and take our time in other things, because also to settle things down a bit. They maturate while you sleep, while you don't think on them.
I have one last question, which is connected to a moment of awe, of just wonder, which I had, which is Superman. Because Laurie Anderson is one of my fetish artists. I just adore her. And when I heard the I was like, oh, no, that's not possible. No, because it was just, it starts with just this and then she starts singing, and I was like, wow. And it was just phenomenally beautiful, and this connection of, the Superman with the super body, which is also the ambiguous body, which overcomes itself, but is also incredibly fragile, and it's a moment of great fragility. And even, I was thinking the theme of this year's festival is embrace. So this embrace, which before you have this couple who embrace, but in a very technical way. I was thinking physio, that you're working on all the muscles, and it's very kind of super dense and tense. While here in Superman, it's this kind of amazing release, which is this just kind of, that's how I felt it after this very, very tense time, that it's suddenly like this completely odd universe, which is also a comeback to the auto-tune from the beginning. That it's like a suddenly, yes, of course, it is. And I was wondering, how did you get there? How did you?
Yeah, I wanna work in this journey that is. It was very it was very narrative, and I felt that at some point it was a bit universal, because it's like the place of proving yourself, of like maturing, getting adult, getting responsibility, trying to be a Olympic gamer, trying to have this arena. Everything is a competition, everything is towards the mirror that actually the other is the mirror, and you are just you are just looking at the mirror constantly, and so proving yourself, like getting adult, but at the same time, like with a lack of, for me, with a lack of intimacy, because as much as we talk about it, like the protections that you put in the body to do sport or to go to war, they protect you from the outside to hit you, but it's kind of like they also don't allow that you get out of this exoskeleton.
They enclose you.
Yeah, like they close you. Yeah. So suddenly you are like blind, not being protected, but not available to expose, or being afraid of expose. And for me, it was a place like after all this journey related with emotions and related with self-image, related with the relation of the others, I felt myself at some point with 30 years old having the most safe place in my parents' house and in my mother arm. And so it was like, oh my God, I am adult, and suddenly I will be always a baby at some point. We were talking about the gladiators, we were talking about the Olympic classical body sports, but also these manneristic, sad Greek classical sculptures that of the vid, that are sublime, that are sensitive. And Superman song, it's a song that talks about the world, the war, the man that goes to war, and the moment that he called home, and it's the mother, the automatic
the answering machine
with the voice of the mother that answers, and like this distance and proximity, this place of like being a Nero somewhere, but even a Nero needs a mother, or you look for kind of like...
Yes, even a hero needs a mother.
Yeah, so it's like, for me it was like, okay, after this journey, I feel like I want to feel, I want to expose myself to this place of fragility and vulnerability, and maybe not pretend anymore. Also because there are certain certain tensions to masculinity, avoid these places. And this is very tender to me to go. Yeah, sometimes we cry doing it, because it's very you can easily connect yourself. It's so concrete, like everybody passed through that experience at some point, or can have a recreation of that love in some, or with a partner, or with the community.
Yes. Giving yourself up to the other.
Yeah, just it's at some point, it's like it's good to be able to trust and to live a life where at some point you have somebody that supports you, like just the feeling that if I fall metaphorically, I can just release a bit in the arms of somebody. This is, I think it's a very it's a very special place for each human being to have during life, and I still have my parents, and I have it, but I don't know if when they die, which human being will be that one, or...
Yes, it's a very beautiful thought to keep with us.
Good.
As I thank you for this conversation. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
And please come back.
Yeah, I hope
We'd
so.
love to have
Thank you. It was good.
Bye.